Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of DAP Radio. Today, we're going to be talking about how to really protect your assets in crypto. Today, I'm joined by Michel, and a gentleman who is brilliant when it comes to this, an expert in crypto custody, also a founder of MeanFinance. My man, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here, Ben. I love your assets protection title. Very creative.
Well, it's something that's really important, right? If you can't protect your
Right on.
assets, then what are you really doing here? So let's hop right in. You're doing some great work. Really want to make sure we get time to explore everything. Maybe we can start by diving into a little bit of your origin story, and maybe you could just talk us through how you got to where you are now, and maybe highlight really when you first got into crypto and your journey in that regard.
Yeah, right on. So I've been a software entrepreneur really for a long time now. Back in 2006, that's a long time. Yes, there's some white hair in this beard. Back in 2006, I founded a company, nothing to do with crypto. There was no crypto back then. But we did really well. It was in a recreation management space. We had an exit in 2011. And right then I figured, I'll take some time off, thinking I'm going to retire in my 20s, but that's never going to happen. So I kind of, dived, knee deep into crypto. Started kind of like falling in love with Bitcoin, and started a company back then doing gift cards that were settled in the back of the Bitcoin network. So that did really well. The name of the company was Paymesh at the time. So very, very early into everything crypto. We sold that out in 2013. I went into another startup. I founded another startup, this time kind of like bringing together real estate and crypto. That seemed to be the right asset class because of the volume that gets moved on real estate. And then rode that all the way to 2020. And there was actually where I had the genesis for what we're doing right now on MeanFinance, because I wanted to be able to access. So, I mean, we're here. We are doing all of this business in real estate and real estate assets and mortgages and escrow and all of those things, taking in raw crypto into it. But we're still having to pay our employees in fiat, and then we would all be very enthusiastic about crypto, and we would all go and then on ramp some crypto using one of the centralized exchanges, and then go move that into DeFi, then start doing some stuff with DeFi. And it's like, this is ridiculous. We're doing this like every single month. Like, we need to be on DeFi directly and be paying everybody's salary on DeFi directly. So that was kind of like the genesis of everything. We started to look around, see what we can find to get this going, and didn't find anything that really met our needs. Back in 2020, like all of the services that had any kind of crypto payroll flavor were either centralized, or they were very primitive in that they were very basic in nature, and they were not thought from a business standpoint. They were more of a, I'm going to send you some money to you if you build my website for individual contract payments. But it's very different the way that you look at those problems when you are a business and you have to hold a treasury that is holding hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and you have to pay 50, 100, 200 employees, 2,000 employees. Like the number of challenges are very unique when you are looking at that specific segment. So because there wasn't anything like that at the time, we were like, let's build it. And here we are today.
I love that. What an epic evolution. And you're probably one of the more experienced entrepreneurs and builders in all of crypto. I mean, you built and sold a business back in 2013. Like, you're an OG of the OGs.
I think I would consider myself an OG on crypto, 100%. I don't know for how long I've been saying I told you so to how many people, but yeah, long time.
I love that. So let's really hone in on how you've been building these businesses. Like, are you the dev? Are you more leading the team? So on and so forth. Like, how do you build out that team, and where's your superpower lie?
Yeah, My superpower is in bringing people together, really. I do have a technical background. I'm a CS major, so computer science is my life. I do enjoy coding. I enjoy writing, products, and I have an architectural mindset. So I'm a very good complement to my CTO, which has been with me forever now. So we kind of like move on together. He's kind of like the secret sauce behind all of these things. He doesn't like that much spotlight, so I take that role for him. But we complement each other very well, and I think that has been one of if there's a good story to be told on our side, is that we have been together for so long that, like, by now it's kind of second nature. We are building new products and we're building new companies, and we're doing things that, because we know how we collaborate so well with one another, it's relatively easy and straightforward to move from one thing to the next and kind of grow these companies as we go along. So, but yeah, if I have one superpower, it would be to read people really well and build good, well-performing teams.
I love that. That's a magical superpower, and we definitely need that in crypto. So thanks for staying in this space for so long. Okay, so let's hop in. Let's tackle this topic here, because I'm sure there's been a ton of hacks. It's crypto. We're in the wild, wild west, and everything's kind of crazy. How do we really protect our assets and just make sure, like, maybe we can build a foundation of, this is the blocking and tackling, the 101, what we've got to do, and then we'll take it to intermediate and advanced.
Hopefully by now, your audience and everybody in crypto kind of like has a basic understanding of the complexities of private key management in general, if that was the only problem of crypto, then and everybody kind of like focused their attention in that, we would be, I think, like manyfold better than we are today. But we have been going at this from a very technical kind of perception. If you think about it, like, just a private key is nothing more than a very long blurb of text that is really hard to remember every single time. And we are asking the world to replace the good old username and password with this like new blurb of crap they have to remember every time. And that's not a very simple thing to get everybody to say, yep, from now on we're gonna live with this new complexity. So, from the advent of simplification on crypto wallets is, we're going to take all of that blurb and we're gonna, simplify it with the mnemonic phrase. And well, the mnemonic phrase is certainly more readable, but it continues to be complex. And so everybody was like, no, this is still complicated. Now there's a bunch of crypto custody solutions that you can have in your wallet, and you can save with a good old username and password. But then that problem gets centralized into a Coinbase, Cryptopia, Mt. Gox. It doesn't matter how many. Every single exchange by now has experienced some sort of hack. So centralizing all of those assets in one place, in the sake of simplicity, is also not the answer, not the solution for that. Then comes along the hardware wallet, and oh my God, this is so secure, but boy, the experience is bad on that. That you have to now keep an extra device that if you lose it, then you have to keep those keys also in your safe. And if you have now you have multiple points of failure, yes, it's extra secure, but very user unfriendly. It's very unlikely that this is going to be the future for us to secure our stuff. Then you have smart wallets. We're going to move all of this kind of like complexity on chain, and we're going to allow you to have all of this somewhat better, easier simplicity, and obfuscate the fact that you are the owner of that wallet with any attacker that gets a hold of your keys. That still doesn't make the world, it makes it a lot simpler. Now you are risking your assets. So all of these solutions have one major breakthrough, at the expense of some other breakthrough. Like it's very difficult to have a solution that gets right like all three principles of this, which is the security, the usability, and the combination of those things are extremely difficult to get right. And so one of the realizations that we have to like land on is that this security trifecta of privacy, security, and usability is a problem only because we've been going at it trying to fix only one of those things at a time. Meaning, like we try to fix the security, like and we as technologists and product people, like we go all the way in, and we're gonna like code this thing into the chipset, and we're gonna create like this really complicated device, and then that comes at the expense of usability. Or if you want to do if you want to protect privacy, then that comes at the expense of security because now you have usability on your side. So like there's always some trade-off in this. And the way that we are attacking the problem, the way that some people are really coming to realize right now is that if most of the hacks and most of the problems that happen with assets are social engineering attacks, meaning it's very unlikely that an attack has anything to do with someone actually hacked your private keys. Like there's no somebody brute forcing their way into it or anything like that. They exist, but they are the least of the attacks. If 90+% of the attacks have to do with some form of social engineering, shouldn't we be thinking about a social engineering solution to the problem? And that's where something like threshold multisig comes into the play, MPCs, MCPs, like all of those other things come into play. And that's what we have basically on MeanFinance. We allow any individual or any company to set up a treasury. And if you can set up a 2 out of 3 multisig, 3 out of 5, an N out of M multisig. Put your assets there, set up policies to see, hey, how many approvals do I need? How much money am I going to allow to move on certain specific people? The same way that you do a bank account, right? So like if you have a corporate bank account, you have all of this, you can go as simple or as complicated as you want, but you have things like, the CPA probably can do certain operations, and this other person can do other operations and only allow up to $500 daily spending limit on this thing, and then just block the account, like all of those kind of rules, plus the additional security of now the assets are held in your custody, but not uniquely by you. You need multiple signatories of your treasury, of your safe, to ultimately get those transactions approved. And we think that that's a much more stronger value proposition. There's a number of companies doing phenomenal work at that. Safe comes to mind on the EVM side, and we are filling that void on the non-EVM chains.
Okay, so that was a ton. I would definitely encourage everybody to like go back and listen to that piece a couple times, because I think what you did there was you broke down a really good overview of like the history of security and where we are now. I think going from that foundational piece, I want to dive into this idea of multisig, because that seems to, and social engineering. Why is the socially engineered solution the multisig solution, and how does that actually work?
Yeah. So let me address the second question first on why is the multisig the social engineering solution. So a multisig by the nature of it is, you can think of kind of like when you go to the bank and you have those safes, those safety deposit box, where you have one key and you go into the box and you put the key. But if you turn it, you cannot still open it. You need the banker to come and put his key and open up that box as well. This is the exact same way that the multisigs work. You have multiple keys that basically open the safe where the money and the assets are being stored. And this is just a digital version of this that also happens to be fully decentralized, meaning that these multisigs live on chain. It is not us with some server in AWS, keeping track of the private keys of each one of the signatories. Each signatory has their own wallet and their own private keys, and they're using those private keys to open up the safe where the money's at. Now, you might think, well, we still don't solve the problem of having to have a key and therefore a mnemonic for that key. And it is true. The only difference is that that key that now you have that is basically going to open up the other one, that you need to keep a mnemonic and do that and all of those things that are complicated. That key is almost like a throwaway key. It doesn't matter if any of the signatories get hacked. Therefore, storing the key doesn't become a mission impossible task. You can very simply put it in a text file, not a problem. Back it up on iCloud, not a problem. Back it up on whatever you want, not a problem. If you lose it, you have recovery systems because you have other signatories that are essentially protecting the overall safe. And if one of those gets compromised, the other people can basically change the key, and that's the concept of rekeying the safe. So you can rekey the safe by changing any of the owners, any of the time. So you almost have this throwaway keys that you can don't store any money there, store it in the safe spot. But it is a social engineering solution because it requires social coordination, and the fact that you have multiple people now that need to coordinate themselves in real life in order to do stuff on the safe is what makes it that social coordination is very hard to actually hack into. Now you have to essentially convince 2 or 3 or however long your threshold is. You need to convince that many people, or you need to hack into that many accounts if you want to actually access where the funds are ultimately sitting at.
So that creates multiple, I don't know if this is the right term, but multiple points of failure, to where there's not one single critical point of failure. Yep. So even if one gets hacked, then there's still the other ones. And because they're all coming together, they can rekey and, they can say, okay, well, we're leaving that one behind that's hacked, and now we can move forward. Yep. Okay, that's brilliant.
100%. Yep, 100%. And this is traditionally being quite the challenge, because so the first network to actually have built-in multisig was the Bitcoin network. And the way that the on-chain multisig of the Bitcoin network works is that you have, and this kind of goes a little bit into the second part of your question, how does it actually work, right? Doing multi-party computation mechanisms where you essentially take one long key and you cut it in little pieces, and then I give you one, and then I keep one, and then I give one to another person, and we have in order for anybody to sign an entire transaction, we need to bring all of these pieces together. The problem is that if any one of those gets messed up, now you don't have access to your funds at all, right? So then we grew from that model into the threshold multisig, which is, we don't actually take one key and cut it into pieces, because that would be really difficult. Rather, we have a storage where you cannot access that storage, where the actual key lives at to sign on behalf of the safe. You cannot access that storage unless a number of people that have been permitted to give their okay, basically say, yes, I approve of this transaction, or I reject it. Unless that threshold is met, you don't get to release the funds or release the actual thing, the transaction that you're trying to do. So the way that it works is that any one of the signers, some people call them owners, some people call them signers, but it's the same concept, right? So each one of the keys gets to submit a proposal and say, hey, I want to transfer $1 million from this, or 1 million tokens from this account, or dollars, or USDC, or whatever, from this account onto myself. And if you were able to do that without anybody's permission, that's it, the end. But because let's take the example of a simple multisig. It's a threshold of 2 out of 3 signers. That means that any 2 of the 3 people that hold keys can come and stick their keys into the thing and make operations if they 2 coordinate together. So now any one of the 3 can say, well, I want to do certain operation, and then any of the other 2 get a notification and they can see, oh, this person is trying to do A, B, C. I know exactly that they're trying to move this many funds from our address, which is the address of the treasurer of the safe, into this other address. He or she normally puts some explanation. There's like, hey, I want to do this because I want to, I don't know, pay my pay a salary or pay, for whatever
right? It is. Yeah.
And the other 2 get to like inspect on chain, fully decentralized, fully permissionless, what exactly is going to happen if they were to approve that transaction. And that is kind of like a simulation of what's happening. Like you're looking at it and you're like, yep, I agree. I want to approve this. If you have a problem, like pick up your phone, call the other person. Hey, are you sure you made a mistake? If you don't like what you see, you hit recheck, and that's it. It never happens.
I love that. So I want to bring this idea into different examples, and let's apply this and make this super functional and get the people thinking about it. So let's say, for example, we have like a semi-autonomous DAO, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have like the 2 main founders of the DAO, and then we have the community, and the founders want to bring the community in. Could there be a way, and I'm just spitballing here, and you and I have not prepared this beforehand, so
no, everybody
just keep this in mind. So maybe you have it where it's 2 of 3, and maybe each founder holds 1, and then the DAO itself can vote on what to do with the third. Could something like that be possible with a multisig? Because that could bring unbelievable coordination to the space.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It is very possible. Now, it is, and I think that this is not a very common thing that at least I have seen. Like most of the DAOs right now, the way that they're structured is you have almost like, you have DAOs that you have on-chain voting, and that is like the DAO has a treasury, okay? And DAO proposals are submitted on that treasury. And usually it is to withdraw or make an investment or, into a particular protocol or something like that from the treasury's assets. And you get, either the entire community to vote on that proposal. And if it passes the threshold, imagine like a very large, you have, 50% threshold on that. That means that at least 50% of the people need to vote yes in order for that proposal to pass. Now, sometimes, depending on DAO participation and like how active the people in the community are, that is a very challenging thing to actually accomplish. 50% participation on a voting, that would be the equivalent of having like a publicly traded company like Microsoft or Amazon decide that they're only going to make decisions based on what every single shareholder of the company decides to do. And if someone is on vacation, they're a very large shareholder, then you need to start thinking about delegation and a lot of these different things. So there's like almost two levels right now, at least at the moment, where you have either membership proposals and membership voting directly, and you have council votes. And council on a DAO is basically kind of like elected representative of the DAO, whether it is CEO or some elected representative from the community that usually form a council, and all of the proposals are first passed through some consensus on everybody, but then they get further cleaned up and voted and accelerated from the DAO council, which is the one that ultimately has access to the funds. But that mode that you mentioned, kind of like, I think that might be a very interesting building block for DAOs, because you can actually extend what you said of, a group of people voting, and that vote doesn't necessarily like release the funds, but actually release the signature to access the funds. So now you can have almost like multiple DAOs coordinating what gets done from a like community pool of assets that they get to collaborate. That can actually increase a lot, I think. DAO collaboration, DAO to DAO collaboration. So very interesting concept, actually. I've never heard of it before. Very, very clever.
Well, we're We're just brainstorming here on the show, on the live stream. So this is the magic that comes from that. So okay, so let's actually dive a little bit more specifically into MeanFinance, and let's talk about just the tools that you've built. Clearly, your tagline on Twitter is everyday DeFi banking workflows, powered by Mean Protocol, no code take investing, crypto payments, and multi-sig. And so obviously you're tackling non-EVM compatible chains. So maybe you could just explain that more. And then let's bridge the topics we've been talking about with the tools that you're building. We've been talking about protection, really securing your assets, and security. How does that really meet in what you're building?
Yeah. So we have MeanFinance is basically two main products really that we bring to the market. The first one, which was the genesis, if you remember, as I was talking earlier on, the payroll problem that we were trying to solve. That was actually how everything started. And the main idea there is that we have this payment streaming primitive that it is kind of like a building block. Think like the TCP/IP layer of the internet. Nobody cares, and nobody's thinking, oh, my packets are being routed through here. But you need TCP/IP for the internet to actually work, right? So payment streaming is an infrastructure component that facilitates any kind of time-bound financial obligations that are done in exchange of payment. And it's like super specific to this, because the time component is what matters here. We're trying to do essentially pay by the second type of engagements with our tech. Now, in order to land this a little bit better, probably the easiest way to think about it is with examples. The payroll example is a very good one. Normally, like for the longest time, we humanity have decided to pay people in batches of 30 days or batches of 15 days. So it's either once a month or twice a month that you get paid from the company that you work for the most part, unless you're an entrepreneur or business owner yourself. But most salaried people, most people that have a job, either receive their salaries every 15 days or every month. And if you think about it, what's happening is that you go to work on the first of the month, and you work the first, the second, the third, and all the way to the 15th for free. Or another way to look at it, and then you get paid. Or another way to look at it is every single day that you work that the company hasn't paid you, the company is accruing debt to you.
Right.
So like you work on the first and you don't get paid, somebody owes you that day of work that you did, right? And you work on the second and you didn't get paid, somebody, like the company owes you now that money. And you're not charging any interest for that money. So you're essentially, the company is essentially incurring in a 0% loan to like, they're getting like an interest-free loan every single day that you work for them. So
you're default sweeping it to them, and they get all of the benefit of holding on to that cash. And there's no guarantee from them that they're actually going to distribute it to you and get paid. So you could put in all that work from 1 to the 14th if you get paid that frequently. And what happens if then they just decide, nope, well, now you're working for free and you have no guarantees.
You made a really good point. In the developed world, in the US and most of Europe and stuff, I don't think that we have that big of a problem with people not getting paid on time, even though they exist. But in the developing world, this is common occurrence. Like companies not paying their employees or paying very late or completely like smoking people out of their salaries for weeks or months at a time. So this is a major problem. And if you think about it, like everybody knows it's a problem. Everybody is like scared of that to be a problem, but nobody would in their right mind go to their employer and say, sir, I need you to pay me at the end of every day or at the end of every hour that I work for you, or I'm not going to keep working. Because the operational overhead that comes from asking that question is almost guaranteed that, okay, like, get out of here. Like, I cannot do it. This is not a doable thing for any company to operate under the assumption that they are going to run their ACH system or their Swift transactions every hour, every day, or every week, or any more often than once a month or twice a month.
And definitely not in real time.
No, not at all. So like for the company, this is the kind of thing that is really difficult for them to do operationally, and for the employer or for the employee, this is the kind of the kind of thing that is very difficult to maintain because of the risk that is inherent to it. Like, you don't have access to the money that is like literally your money. So we fix both of those problems with this. How do we do that? With payment streaming. And essentially the way that it works is that we open up a contract in between the employer and the employee, and we can alter what is the rate that the employer wants to pay the employee their salary. Everybody has something like, I get paid whatever, $10,000 a year, $10,000 a month, whatever the arrangement is. And that amount of money gets simply dripped little by little, enforced by our smart contracts, gets dripped little by little from the employer to the employee in real time. So every second that you work as an employee, you get to claim that second if you want. There's no payday anymore. You don't have to wait until the 15th. If you need money tomorrow, you can collect what you did, up until that point, and you collect that money. The employer doesn't have any way to like recall that money back. You get to invest that, buy groceries, do whatever you want to do with it. And on the flip side, the employer also gets a lot of benefits from it, because they don't have to, like, the concept of let me run payroll goes away completely. You don't have to run any more payroll. You simply have to ensure that in the treasury where those streams are going out from, it's enough money for them to continue to run. Or you're going to start incurring in the debt that you are very accustomed to incurring on today's infrastructure. So this is like,
but on the employer side, the employer gets penalized if they don't have enough to pay their employees on time.
Well, they are like, legitimately in debt. Like, right. At that point, they start incurring in debt. They need to come up to the table and meet that debt obligation before they can continue to employ. So at this point, like, imagine, I'm your employee, right? And I see that all of a sudden, hey, like, time out. My money is not running. My money stream stopped. My salary is stopped dripping.
You don't waste any more time.
You owe me, or I'm going to stop working right now. Like, just come up to the table, pay me, and then put enough money so that I can continue to work, and then I'll work. So, right? So, like, it is a just-in-time, real-time obligation that now it is enforced on chain for the first time. Like, I mean, this is like a major fundamental shift in the way you think about how you do that.
It's a game changer.
Yeah,
well, first of all,
I think so.
I'd be really lucky if that situation was happening, because we'd be working together in that way. So lucky me in that scenario. But a quick question there: is it only time-based, or would there be the option to have it be task or job-based, or like function action-based?
Very good. You remember when I made that analogy to the TCP/IP? So the salary element it's kind of like, the salary example is just one application that is leveraging this contract of payment streaming, the capacity of streaming payment between any two parties, and have that delegation of ownership and settlement happening in real time is what that TCP/IP layer is. And then everything else that can be built on top of it, multiple applications can be built on top of it. One that is not necessarily, it is related to time, but it's not continuous all the time, would be, for example, you can think of an evolution of the traditional software as a service type of subscription, right? So Netflix or Spotify or any of those things, where you are quite literally, I like the Netflix example because it is one that illustrates very, very good something that everybody does. Like, if you pay $20 a month for your Netflix subscription, what you're essentially doing is you are paying to access the entire library of content that Netflix has at a moment's notice from your devices. But the reality is that on any 2 months, you don't consume the same amount of content. And Netflix is either forcing people to buy into their entire catalog, or if you don't want to buy into the entire catalog, you're out. And there's like a lot of people that don't get into this business of like buying Netflix, for example, just because I watch one movie a month. And that one time that I want to watch it, I want to pay for it and get out. And if it's a Netflix, phenomenal. Now you can essentially open up a payment stream between the person that doesn't want to pay for a full subscription because I only watch one movie a month. I open up a payment stream between me and Netflix. Netflix doesn't charge me anything until I go to the TV, turn it on, log into my account, which is not charging me anything, and find my movie, hit play, and in that moment, money starts streaming from my account into Netflix account. And if I hit pause because I didn't like the movie, or I stop altogether, payment stop. I switch to another movie, hit play, watch it all the way through, I get charged every second. Movie A might be more expensive than movie B, and that is because it is a blockbuster or whatever, and all of those, like in those cases, you can see that on like clock in, clock out for hourly workers as well. The pause and play and all those clock in, clock out, all of those are just, if you go with a parking meter, you park your car, start, charging at that time for, second by second, for as long as you're in that parking meter, you're paying automatically. You leave, you stop paying because you're not using that parking spot. So there's like a lot of different use cases, all of which are built on top of this payment streaming primitive that essentially now open up a whole slew of like on-chain automation and payment settlement that is happening in real time. And all of those are powered by the same piece of core tech.
You know what then that sets up to do, which I'm sure you've already thought of this, and but what comes to my mind is, okay, well, let's go back to the Netflix example. And let's say you're paying for use in real time streaming like this. You should also have the option to just buy monthly, and then, it is what it is.
100%.
So you should have both options. But what they then can set up is something where it's almost like a swap, where instead of you paying directly for the thing, there should also be something where maybe you contribute to the overall Netflix network some video like GPU rendering capabilities. And so the amount of GPU rendering capabilities that you build up, you can almost swap that for the, pay per streaming in time. And so that builds a really cool two-way street that users shouldn't even have to worry about. The tech should just handle.
Yep. That's exactly right. So like, you can think of all of these like new, almost like, game dynamics that have come out recently. If you think about like the play to earn and play to and pay to play and all of this like combination of pay, play, earn and all of these things, these are actually not that new. They're just new now to the gaming industry, and that's the novel approach. But we've had like pay-per-view forever. You just pay for the fight, or you pay for the match, or you pay for the thing, and that's been like a very big business for a long time. The unique distinction here is that now we're applying that to the actual, we're kind of like shrinking all of that, the unit of payment, into individual actions or individual seconds or individual triggers that you can take on pretty much anything you do, whether that is hitting play on a movie or if you're playing a game, turning left on a particular scene, or clicking one button versus another button in another metaverse. Like any of those things can be monetized and can be, you can think like the ultimate extreme example that I have for this is, you can think of a game, the hot and cold game where you're like, if you're going in the right direction, you're like, oh, you're getting hotter, you're getting hot, you're getting hot, you're getting hot, and then you meet your master or your goal for that particular quest. And if you're going in the wrong direction, you're getting cold, cold, cold. Now imagine, how do you actually make a monetization schedule out of that, whereby as you are moving in the right direction and making progress in the game, the guild that you're playing with is paying you to advance in the right direction. And if you go in the wrong direction, you are contributing to the guild for the people that are doing the right thing. Like, that almost like is a little bit mind blowing if you think about it, like that, that kind of setup and scenario.
It's the ultimate meritocracy.
Yep, absolutely. And you can get all of those things pretty much on any kind of game dynamics. Again, all of those things are either trigger based or time based, financial exchanges, and all of those are, you can have, option A, you don't use payment streaming, and then each developer on every single character, on every single move, needs to be making decisions of, like, if I do this, I need to send some payment. If I do that, I need to send some payment.
No way.
Or you simply open up between the gamer and the guild a payment stream, and the guild dictates when it rewards, and the gamer dictates when it pays back, and everything else that happens, it's based on that first contract that you open up, and there's absolutely no overhead to any of the development of the game. And I think that second option is way better.
And actually, what that even then enables as a foundational piece is like streaming of games and building in. I mean, my mind's absolutely racing, and so this is incredible. But like, what if there was an ad component in there where it's not just the gamer and the game, but there's also the sponsors and the advertisers who want to contribute into the game? Well, now, like, they're dripping in, the sponsors are dripping in the payment, and then it's getting automatically split between all the players and a piece going to the game. And so now you're able to really have some powerful incentives there. Like, that solves so many issues.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can see your brain lighting up in all sorts of directions here. Yeah. So, like, imagine if, like that movie, Ready Player One, where everybody had on their heads, like, what was their balance, right? And they were moving through the game and they had all these coins. And you can almost think like every one of us with a little like stack of what is our net worth, and a bunch of different streams coming in or out of each of us, and you have a net balancing that is either increasing or decreasing. And if you think, you don't have to think too hard to realize that is reality today. It's just
we just can't measure it as well.
Exactly, we just can't measure it. And now with payment streaming, you can make pretty much anything a payment stream. Every kind of payment or financial obligation that you have to every single company that either you send money or they send money to you is nothing more that, so you either decide or bet for a future where payments will continue to be sent and received in batches, the way that they have been happening for hundreds of years, or you bet on a future where the relationship is enforced in a contract, and as you consume services from one another, you simply exchange the equivalent value of that service, because the payment stream pipe is already open between the two of us, right? And I think that's a much more exciting future that we're building and that we're making available right now.
I think so too. I think it's extremely liberating. And then what it turns into, in my opinion, more of is it puts the onus on the architects of the platforms. So like the game builders or the DAO leaders or the people that are creating these things that other people exist in and play in. it puts the emphasis on them and the onus on them to build really fair and really integrity first systems, because now everybody can see the flow of value throughout the system in
Yep.
real time, and people aren't going to want to go into a place where they're getting taken advantage of. If this was applied to something like, the Web 2 monster social media businesses, everybody would quit, because you would see all the value that's flowing through
Yep.
you, but you're not capturing any of it.
You're capturing. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
It's
Yeah,
brilliant.
that's huge. That's huge. And like, so ultimately for us, to kind of like, expand a little bit on the concept, right? So like we have this very basic foundations, and it will come the time where we will shift from like the it's still very early in this future that we're building, right? Like, we don't have mass adoption. We have less than 200,000 users still, but we're growing tremendously. But like ultimately, we want to be the thing that nobody knows is there. We want to be that infrastructure play that everybody can leverage, and any other developers and gamers and I don't care if you are a utility bill company. Like I don't want to our intent is not really to have Florida Power and Light, or it doesn't matter. Let's say powered by Mean or anything like that. It's just like a piece of infrastructure that gets used, and it is almost like a public good that anybody can tap into and use it as the rails, as the settlement rails for any kind of transaction that they're doing. And ultimately, that's kind of like where we want to take the whole payment streaming primitive. Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant. I know we're getting close on time here. There's so many different paths we could go down. I actually just want to put it to you and ask: is there anything else that we need to know, and any other topics we need to hit before we wrap it on up here? Clearly, you're doing whatever the metaverse equivalent of God's work is. That's what you're doing. So I don't
Thank you.
want to
Appreciate it.
monopolize your time.
No. This has been phenomenal. I just, in general, I think that we're hyper focused on building the two products that I mentioned. One is payment streaming, we cover at length here, and the other one is super safe, which is if you think about some of the concepts that we're talking about, many of them require companies and organizations that are either interacting with you or servicing you or doing something with individuals. So both retail and businesses are beneficiaries of this. And from a business perspective, having having the proper treasury set up so that you are streaming and securing your funds in the correct way is a pivotal part of this puzzle as well. So by allowing anybody, whether you're again an individual or a business, to have a threshold multisig on chain with multi-signatures, and that you can secure your funds and your assets, and you can interact with the entire DeFi space, it's paramount to our success as much as it is building the payment streaming primitive. So those two things combined, I think, is what this is what we're building. This is the future that we want to see. So we're adding our little contribution to it.
I love it. Let's wrap it on up here. Where can everybody go to get more information? And let's tackle that.
MeanFi.com is the center of where you will find pretty much anything else. You can find us on Twitter at MeanFinance, you can actually, like, just from the website, you can go to Twitter, Discord, pretty much all of the different social media and community management that we do. And also access our app. We are live in production. This is not something that is just a white paper that you can read. This is an actual working product that we have. We have many examples, many partners. We have over 150 treasuries right now, super safes, that are that are live in production, holding assets. We are streaming billion now worth of tokens since we came live. So very happy with the progress so far. We seem to be hitting the right chord with the industry, and we cannot wait to see more companies, teams coming on board and making use of this of these products.
I love it. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think the world is definitely going to be better off for everything you're building. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. It's been fun.
Awesome. You're the man.
Well.
Thank you to everybody watching and listening. Go check it out. Dive in. Go down the rabbit hole. And I will see you on the next episode of DAP Radio. Take care.